Alright, hi universe. I'm going to show you a quick, well not really quick, but I'm going to show you my very first test drive of the V2 version of the pancar. Right now it's still in the prototype stage. The one difference from the pictures I have shown lately is that I had to remove the spacer in the front because this track is so bumpy that the front was scraping the floor. So the front is pretty much the same height as the rear, which is about 3 something mil, and which is good. There is no scraping unless of course the touching the curb or whatnot. There is quite a lot of bump at the end of the straight line in this track, but nevertheless, this car has now the exact same electronic setup as the original FP pancar. So it's a 13.5 brushless censored with a 60 amp blinky motor, so no timing on the motor. 2S LiPo. I'm running a 4000 milliamp hour shorty low center of gravity LiPo, so it's the same size as a 1S, but it's a 2S LiPo battery pack. And I'm running the JFT as well. The tires pink front and rear. The axle is the same as before. Is the Teams axle. I think is pretty much the cheapest axle you can get for a 112 pancar. It's a ball diff. And then I'm using the Team C body. I have no idea what reference it is, but it's a very cheap body. I got it for 70 Hong Kong, which is below 10 US, something like that, at a store locally. And although I was quite surprised, I think it was a handmade mold for the body because it's not symmetrical on the right and left, but it has a really good downforce profile. And so that was my very first time driving it. I am used to driving the pancar now for quite some time, but I haven't driven the pancar with such an aggressive body before, so I'm gonna have to do a test with the original FP and that body on, because I can just switch them. The body posts are exactly in the same place, and then I'll do a comparing video. However, now this body was kind of a gamble for me because it is pretty much a blown up version of my 128, my PC00 car, with a very different type of flex cuts that I've done on the side, no more T-plate, and there is a lot of different suspension elements. So the chassis itself is a part of the suspension, with the flex cuts on the sides going all the way from the middle of the chassis to the pod at the rear. There is a central damper with a spring going from pretty much the middle of the battery to the front of the battery tray. There are two side springs from ride on the left and the right, and then there is a central damper plate system with two springs in it. So there is quite a lot going on, but overall it is fairly simple and there are not a lot of moving parts. So I'll do a video when I show all the details of the suspension system for the car. The front is exactly the same as the FP, although there is no more floating front end. The front end is fixed now like a traditional chassis, so it's simply springs with the caster adjustment with my aluminum C-hub. And the difference as well from before is that now there are two diffusers as part of the chassis before each rear wheels. And I have to say, between that, the new suspension system, and the Team C body, the car, although the straight is very bumpy, it was unbelievably glued to the ground compared to the FP car. Once again, I've been driving the FP with the Lola body, which is extremely heavy, and it doesn't have an aggressive, it's not designed for downforce, it's just designed to look nice and to look like an old Can-Am 70s proto. But whatever body I used it with, the FP, pretty much any pancar I've used on that track is very bumpy at the end of the straight. You'll see around this part it starts to be really bumpy. Like my 375 F1 at the end over there just jumps all over the place. It's a very, very bad surface for that track, but that chassis that I tried to do for the first time was completely glued. I'm still not used to there is a difference with this diff now that the Team Saxo belongs to Vapon. I received a diff kit, and there is no more. I don't know if it's called the plate bearing, when you have two plates and a bearing in the middle to attach to the end of the diff. It doesn't have this. It only has the squeezing plate at the back, so it's a lot stiffer than the other diffs that I have, and I'm not very happy with it. So I might upgrade in the future to something that I don't have on other cars, which would be a nice diff set for the rear. I might try one of the SDRacing gear diff, although they're really expensive, but I think it would be worth trying, because this car seems like it's going to be an absolute rocket. So downforce, amazing, and I think it's not only the body, but I have the feeling that the diffusers under the tires really play a role. So I'm gonna try the car. You see that, for example, just now, that was it's the diff is so hard at the back, it's almost like a spool. So that was me being an idiot with my trigger finger. So I'm going to play around with the cars as it is, because every element is the same as on the FP, the first version. So I'm going to play with the two cars, and I'm going to do comparing videos with different bodies on. I would like to go and do it at the bigger PYC track, but things are not that easy these days. So I might just do it at the local one, and at least it's a familiar track for me. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have on that car. You can see the running video. Today I was running with a lot of X-Ray touring cars. The orange and white is an Express. The two other cars are the 2020 X-Rays touring cars. So they are eating my face on the straight line, but you can see that in the cornering, and you know, on all the other parts of the track, if I don't screw up my driving, I'm pretty much neck and neck with them. And then of course the four-wheel drive, they can brake way later than I can brake in the straight line, and I think I was only racing at 80% end point, so this is not full speed in the straightaway. But the upgrades of the new chassis plate and the suspension system, I think it's an enormous change compared to the original FP version, which is much more of a classic car. This is way more of a prototype. It's a very, very strange setup, but it's working extremely well. So I can't wait to go and try it on some bigger track that are flatter and have just more overall speeds, so I can see how the car goes around, and I can lower the car as well a little bit, maybe try it on the carpet as well if PYC cleans their carpets since the last time I've been there. So in the meantime, I'll leave you on this video. There'll be more showcase and testing of that car in the coming days and weeks, because that's the main things that I'm working on at the moment. Alright, so hope everybody is safe and sane, and this is me effing up with my finger again, and I will talk to you again very soon. Bye bye.
This corner is tricky. Just careful there. Maybe a little bit of exponential. Gonna go -25. Oh, it's bump steer, okay. Not bump steer, but